why is Ian Rapoport, when we talk about certain national reporters are down on Trey Lance, it's Ian Rapoport. Ian Rapoport's very interesting. He's the lead guy, essentially, the lead insider at NFL Network. And I equate him with Adam Schefter, who is like the #1 insider in the NFL, in the entire league. Ian works for the league. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of assume he's like the same. But he speculates about the 49ers. Adam Schefter really doesn't. Ian, about once every couple of months for years, has had a little update on NFL Network that gets us all talking. And he doesn't say he's heard it from a source, but we assume he has, because why would he speculate? But he does. And he just revealed on the Pat McAfee show that he's been speculating about the Niners starting Sam Darnold, and that the Niners finally called him and said, dude, why are you doing this? Why are you speculating? Why are you discounting Trey Lance? And he essentially said on the Pat McAfee show, because that's what I think you're going to do. I mean, I don't think you really like Trey Lance, and I'm calling your bluff. Like, that's another guy essentially calling the Niners bluff and saying, I think you don't like Trey as much as you say you do. And Chris Sims did the same thing. Ian Rapoport, kind of interesting. Why is he engaging in this speculation, and why is he essentially calling the 49ers bluff here?
I don't necessarily know the reason why, but one thing I'll say is we have to stop assuming that because he's an insider or Adam Schefter's an insider, that they always get it right, or that they can't have an opinion separate from being the breaking news guy.
Exactly.
Two very different
seems like
things.
Rapoport kind of blurs the line a little bit. I mean, sometimes he's the guy in a suit on NFL Network saying that the 49ers just contacted me and this was what you need to know. Other times he's the guy with his sleeves rolled up on Pat McAfee, bussing with the boys, telling people what he heard. It's like, wait a second, like, that's news. They're telling you you're wrong. So why don't you go and do another report saying that the Niners contacted you and said I'm wrong, and now I'm the breaking news guy and I want to get this right. And he's over here being like, yeah, they told me, but I don't really. Like, what? What are you talking about? So you're like me and Jesse now. You're analyzing. Yeah. You're playing both roles. That seems a little duplicitous.
It does, and it's hard because even when they are speculating or educated guesses or whatever he's doing, when he's opining, it makes it hard on everybody else because they assume that he's plugged in. So these are the things you hear. There's no way he just came up with this opinion on his own. I mean, he's Ian Rapoport. He heard something and then he, kind of filled in the rest of it and came up with the story, but he definitely heard something. No, I don't believe that that's necessarily the case. And I think what Aaron Rodgers did, and people gloss over this, but the way that Aaron Rodgers treated all those insiders this offseason kind of goes to show you that these guys are often speculating. They're not clear about when they are opining or speculating versus breaking news sometimes. And these players don't appreciate it. You saw Aaron Rodgers take things into his own hands, the way that he handled things on Pat McAfee. You saw Lamar Jackson do the exact same thing. Both of them gave a big FU to the insiders and were like, you don't know anything. You think you know everything. You don't know anything. You spit out a lot of opinions. Yeah. You think you have plugs with people in my inner circle. You don't. And you're just flat out wrong. And I think in a very professional manner, this is different than a player. When a player has these feelings, they're going to come out and stand up for themselves because they're single entity, especially a guy like Lamar, because he's his own agent. When an organization looks at it and says, you're speculating here, and then they reach out, they're not going to come out and make it this big hoorah thing. Look at us. This guy's an idiot. They're going to do what they did during the 2021 draft and say, yeah, I mean, we'd let people speculate. That's not our job to correct them. But in this case, it was their job to correct them. They did it under the table, behind the scenes. But that was their way of saying, listen, man, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not necessarily right. At least that's the way that I look at it. And so I just feel like it's really hard to decipher when these insiders are giving an opinion and knowing which is which.
Also, you got to remember, the Niners don't leak. That stuff was Trent Baalke. And I don't know, maybe Trent Baalke had a good interview, a good rapport with Rapoport, but the Niners don't leak. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan don't do business that way. And the biggest mystery in the league is Trey Lance. And the Niners aren't, from what I understand, they're not going around whispering to people what they think and it's their secret. And what these insiders have to do is either be honest and say nothing, which is what Adam Schefter mostly does. He just doesn't talk about it. But it's tempting to talk about because you get a lot of attention if you talk about it. So Ian Rapoport every couple of months has like an update on it, and it's pure speculation. And he says so. He doesn't say it's sourced, and people just assume, oh, damn, Ian said it. Well, that means he must have talked to someone, but he didn't want to talk about it. Like, nah, like he just wants in on the action, just like Cowherd did last year. And I think it's really weak. And it's like, again, the Niners aren't leaking, so people are just saying, oh, okay, well, Trey must suck. Well, who's saying Trey must suck? The guys who said they were going to draft Mac Jones. So a lot of these guys have egg on their faces from 2 years ago, and you don't know what their agenda is when they're speculating. So I think it's time that we kind of identify speculation for what it is and stop giving it more weight just because it comes from a dude at NFL Network who's doesn't even live in the Bay Area and is never ever in the facility watching practice.
Yeah,
and is not as connected as he may want to seem.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pile on when somebody's wrong. If they have an opinion and they can articulate, like Larry was a big example. A lot of people piled on with, oh, you were wrong about Trey being traded. I never have an issue when you're going to stand out on a limb and say something that you truly believe.
Larry didn't try to pose like he might have heard something, which is the difference.
And
yeah,
if you have an opinion that's different from everybody else and you end up being wrong, people are wrong all the time. I have zero issue with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to pile on if he's wrong, but don't frame it like it's inside information. And what was even worse was he kind of sandwiched that in with, oh, the 49ers are shopping Trey Lance. And then all through the draft, even on day 3, he's like, I still think there's a chance here that they're going to trade him today. And if not, they'll trade him before the season. It's like, okay, so what are you reporting and what is your opinion? Because
exactly.
you reported something real, which was, hey, they've heard offers.
Yeah.
And then you sandwich that between a bunch of opinions and speculation. And so now people are confused as to what's what. And I get it generates clicks and does all the things that you want. And
he should be above that. I thought he was the breaking news. Like he is, there's no promotion for him. He's the top insider at NFL Network. So if he should just be good with his job and break news and be happy that he has integrity. But like when he goes on Pat McAfee, right there, that's a red flag. Like, what do you want this attention for? Like, do you want people to know the Ian behind the Ian? Like the person, like you're just a breaking news guy or not? I guess not. So you're also a speculation analyst, personality, talking head. So, all right, well, I don't know where to draw the line. And maybe I'm going to assume that the Niners don't leak and you're speculating like the rest of us. And I don't really need to react every single time he has like a thought that he puts on camera.
Yeah. And I don't, it is interesting. I don't mind him going on McAfee, like doing his appearances, but seeing him actually host in the absence of McAfee, that was a little, I was like, oh, I wouldn't, that caught me off guard a little bit. Okay.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
Everything that you're saying right now is
I don't like it.
Clearly your opinion, and that's okay. But
yeah,
that's when he dropped that info. This is in Pat McAfee's absence. He's like, oh yeah, speaking of the 49ers, they reached out to me and said, hey, why are you down on Trey Lance? He was hosting the show. He's hosting the Pat McAfee show. I mean, that's a little, I don't know. It's just a little weird to me. It's all a little, but I'll also say this. I'm also not of the belief that the 49ers don't leak at all, because there have been things that have come true, and I'm not an insider, but I've heard things well in advance that later became true or
fair enough,
proven to be true. And so if information is trickling down to YouTube guy, then I know that there's other people that are talking.
Let me put it this way. If Ian Rapoport thought the Niners were going to draft Mac Jones, he ain't getting the leaks. If there are leaks, somehow he missed the leak is all I'm thinking. If he thought they were drafting anyone who thought the Niners were drafting Mac Jones, because the guy who matters is Kyle Shanahan. And that's the guy making the final decision. And maybe there are some people who are connected to him or 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon that know what he's talking about. But My guess is that Ian Rapoport is not one of them. So that's how I'm moving forward. Anytime he has a report about the Niners quarterback situation, I'm going to take it with like a lot of salt, many grains of salt, big grains of salt.
Right. But you know what I also find interesting, Grant, is there are a lot of people that say what you said, which is the 49ers don't leak. But those same people come on the back end and will be like, well, Ian Rapoport said this about Trey Lance and it fits my narrative. So obviously the 49ers don't like him. It's like, well, hold on. Do they not leak? Or do they only not leak when you don't like what's going on? You know, you have to kind of pick and choose. So I don't know.
The reason I say they don't leak is, to me, again, it's all about no one knows the deal with Lance. No one's in practice.
Yeah.
No one's getting the scoop. And everyone's asking, hey, Ian, you're the biggest insider in the world. Yeah. You have to know what's going on with Trey Lance. And instead of saying, gee, I don't know, they're not telling me, he says, well, you know, he said, and I Sam Darnold seems like, it's like, what are you talking about, man? You don't know. Just say you don't know.
Yeah,
just say you don't know, because they're not telling anyone. It is their secret. If it's bad, they don't need to tell anyone. If it's good, they don't need to tell anyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Or,
it just seems
put
to me
the
it's
story together. Or put the story.
No.
Hey, I believe that it's this because of XYZ. They signed Sam Darnold right away. They're taking phone calls on Trey. It seems to me like, you know, Sam Darnold is in favor. I believe that there's a potential that Trey Lance is going to get traded and that Sam Darnold has kind of won them over as the next guy up if Purdy's not able to play. I believe versus, hey, this is factual or this is whatever. That's a whole different story you're putting together.